Hello everyone, I'm Peter Hagberg, Board President of Shore House. A big welcome to all of you from all of us for joining our Home of Our Own virtual Beacon of Hope event this evening. And thank you. It means a lot to all of us, especially to our members, that you're here with us. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. As part of our event, we will welcome you into our new home with a special tour through our clubhouse. We'll share with you powerful stories of resilience from our members. We're going to present awards to honor 3 of our most generous Shore House partners, along with a special award for one of our members for their strength and resilience through the journey of mental illness. And we'll deliver an expert panel of mental health professionals to discuss COVID-19's effects on mental health. Each and every one of you is part of our history, part of our story, and part of our future. And we're proud to share our successes with you tonight. Now, I'd like to introduce you to our Shore House Executive Director, who also happens to be the 2020-2021 Emerging Leader of the Year from the New Jersey chapter of the National Association of Social Workers. Please welcome Susan Mazzio.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you all for being here with us this evening. We are very grateful for your continued support. The last time we were together, the world was a different place. COVID-19 has hit us all very hard, but can you imagine adding mental illness into the mix? That isolation we all felt when we were sheltering in place is something our members live with on a daily basis. So in a way, we actually walked in their shoes. Because of the mental health crisis created by the pandemic, Shore House had to be there for our members, and we were. We were up and running with our virtual clubhouse one day after we started sheltering in place. We were able to maintain our community and our connection, and we did it together. I always like to say we are the little clubhouse that could, and our members blew me away with their resilience and their positivity and their hope. And they continue to inspire me every day. A huge part of the clubhouse model is member and staff working side by side together to complete all the work of the house. One of our favorite things to do together is to videotape our daily newscast. This program teaches technology, public speaking, and writing skills while building self-esteem and confidence. I'm going to turn it over to the members who have created a very special newscast just for you to update you on all we have accomplished in these last 6 months. So take it away, Dano.
Welcome to Shore House in the News. I'm Danny Rocker, a Shore House member since 2015. We're here to give you the latest since COVID caused our community to go into lockdown. As Susan said, it's been tough, but we got through it together thanks to our virtual clubhouse. So while our doors were physically shut, Shore House was always open. Members never stopped working to keep the clubhouse running. As a team, we did whatever it took to stay connected and stay positive. And now, here's Cindy.
Thanks, Dan. We kept Shore House running with the help of our friends. The Kessler Foundation paid for Chromebooks. The Gruen Foundation donated our Zoom subscription. We hosted over 188 Zoom meetings with amazing attendance. We now have an in-person program and a virtual one. This is huge for Shore House. We can expand the reach of our services to those in need, no matter where they are. And now here's my good friend Jane.
Thanks, Cindy. Shore House has 3 core pillars: employment, education, and socialization. I will forever be grateful for the opportunity I got, thanks to Shore House, to work as a social media coordinator at Motions. I was able to work remotely to keep me focused and feeling positive. I'm looking forward to my next job where I can use my newfound IT skills and knowledge. AJ is up next to talk about education.
We encourage members to think big and offer assistance to them as they follow their dreams. Like Brenda, who is working towards her GED through our partnership with Brookdale Community College. We also offer alternative education opportunities. One of our favorites is our virtual Lunch and Learn series. We even had Mayor Pallone come to explain on what the city of Long Branch was doing to combat COVID. He really helped all of us. Now, here's Julia to speak about socializing, our favorite pastime here at Shore House.
At Shore House, we always support one another, especially when times get tough. During lockdown, we wrote and delivered over 100 birthday cards, thinking of you cards to make sure our members knew they were loved. We made 660 reach out phone calls to make sure members knew they were supported and we were thinking about them. We also organized 6 outdoor socials. Ice cream is always sweeter when shared with friends. And now back to you, Danny Rocker.
Thanks, Julia. I hope you enjoyed our newscast and hearing about our virtual clubhouse. I am so proud of my fellow members, and I am so proud to be a part of Shore House. Thank you, and over to you, Susan.
Thanks, Dan. And you know, we're very proud that you're a member too. Next up, a member story. You know, I'm very humbled that the members trust me enough to share their experiences with me. It's also a really good reminder that there's a person behind that mental illness diagnosis.
Shore House is a place for people who have mental illness to learn their strengths. Your mental illness might get you through the door, but it's forgotten. You're looked at as a person. You're not looked at as an illness. You're looked at for your strengths and your willingness to learn things. I know how to cook. I did a culinary course. I can sit for hours and crochet. I do know some computer skills. I make a lot of stupid jokes. I love puns. So I'm very what I call punny, which is a pun itself. But when I'm depressed, I actually will go into Shore House. Because I found out being around people, I don't feel as depressed because isolation makes you feel more depressed. After my first hospitalization, when I was asked to leave my parents' house, and I talked to a psychiatrist, he said, it sounds like you got bipolar disorder. Bipolar is very much like a roller coaster ride. You could go from the euphoric highs to really bad lows. I have 2 types of highs. I have hypomania, which is where I'm very funny, and then I have the mania where I have a lot of energy, but sometimes my patience is very short at that point. And if I'm really severely depressed, I don't want to touch food. I don't like it. I don't want to be upsetting towards other people. And I'll try to explain, to bear with me. It's not who I am. It is my disease, unfortunately. It's the nature of the disease. A lot of families don't always understand that mental illness is not the person's fault and it's not a character flaw. Families kind of ostracize them and say, you did something to deserve this. They blame people with mental illness for doing something that causes a mental illness. For almost 13 years, I belonged to a partial day hospital program. After a while, I was feeling stagnated there, because I felt like I wasn't growing as a person because I was seen as a client. I was seen as an illness, but it kind of kept me in there and kept me a little stuck. I went to Shore House and I fell in love with it. When COVID hit, my building is a senior disabled building. So they had to put us into what they call lockdown. So it got very depressing because, things were closed down and then I wasn't allowed to see any of my friends. Sometimes it got a little bit too much for me, so I had to reach out for help. Shore House opened a Facebook page for members, and they also got a grant for Zoom. Even though we weren't seeing each other in person, but we were still able to see people's faces and just hear a voice. I felt like Shore House really cared. We are a family. Friends are family that you pick. So that's what Shore House is. It's a family that people choose to belong to. The best thing about Shore House is how they keep people connected and that they really care. We're not just a number, we're not just a client, we are a member and we are needed.
Thanks, Carrie. We really appreciate your honesty, and I think it's really amazing that you have such a handle on your illness, even when you're manic. And I think that might be something that's a big misunderstanding, that people living with a mental illness do understand their diagnosis and their symptoms, and they are able to cope, even in their darkest moments. You're a really good example of that. Again, thank you for sharing your story. Next up, I'd like to present the Shore House Community Partner Award. This award is given to an organization who demonstrates a commitment to improve the lives of the people in our community. This year's recipient is the Freed Foundation. We are grateful to the Freed Foundation for funding our core support. Core support are things like our mortgage, our utility bill, even our staff salaries. Not very sexy, but very necessary for Shore House to keep our lights on and our doors open. We are thankful to the Freed Foundation for understanding this, especially during a pandemic. Accepting the award on behalf of the foundation is President Elizabeth Freed. Elizabeth may live in Florida, but she's still a Jersey girl at heart and still loves the Long Branch community. I am very honored to present the Shore House Community Award to Elizabeth Freed.
Thank you, Susan, for this great honor. I have been funding nonprofit mental health initiatives in the tri-state area for more than 30 years, and I know the pain and suffering mental illness causes firsthand. So much money is needed now, especially in the wake of COVID-19. People who have never experienced mental health problems are anxious, depressed, and suicidal. Shore House's services are quintessential at this time, providing a healing environment for people who are facing mental challenges. At Shore House, the members feel less isolated and less fearful because they feel understood and valued. Please dig deep into your souls and pockets for Shore House and the multitude of people suffering from the developing mental health pandemic. Thank you again for the lovely award and the recognition of my life's work in the field of mental health. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for your generosity and support. We congratulate you and the Freed Foundation for your well-deserved Community Partner Award. For the past 10 years, from a grassroots startup with only one member to tonight, we've shared with you our vision of one day having a clubhouse of our own. Well, we're happy to share we did this. You did this. Because of you and your generous support, we are now the proud owners of a clubhouse we can proudly call our own. What an accomplishment, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Please join us now for a walkthrough of our new clubhouse.
It's so important for Shore House to have our own space, so we're able to offer the wide variety of programs that appeal to all of our members. Having their own space here means they own this. This is their house. It sends the message that they matter. We really wanted to stay in Long Branch because we really loved Long Branch. It was a very diverse community, a very welcoming community. Having the street visibility of our new location is very beneficial. We have a big giant sign that says Shore House, making waves for mental wellness. That sparks awareness. Owning our own house allows us to customize it exactly to how we need to use it. Our members are very creative with their art, and we love to have it displayed all over the house.
Hello, Shore House, can I help you?
Our reception area is one of the most important rooms in the house. The member who is working at the reception desk welcomes all of our guests in. They schedule tours, they reach out to members we haven't seen in a while, and they transfer calls all over the house. We are so happy to have this kitchen. We are really excited to be able to offer culinary programs for members to learn to cook. And it's not just a transferable skill to paid employment, it also allows members to know how to cook so they can eat healthy in their own home. Our dining room is set up so members and staff eat side by side with other members serve. You're waited on, you have a very civilized lunch. You know, for the people that are serving, it's teaching them a transferable skill.
What do you want in your coffee?
Milk and sweet and low, please.
Here you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
They like working at the snack bar because it's a sense of accomplishment. The members choose what we make, they choose what we sell, they price it, they are in charge of maintaining the inventory. They're also in charge of managing the bank. So at the end of the day, they have to reconcile all of the sales. It might seem small, but it's really not. It goes a long way. When members come, they go to the snack bar, they get a cup of coffee, a bagel, something to eat, and then they can sit and they can start their day chatting with the other members. Our clerical unit is located on our second floor where they have all of their meetings. They prepare board reports and reports for Clubhouse International. They record our attendance. They also manage our transportation system, which is how 90% of our members get to Shore House. It helps them to improve their vocabulary. It helps them to improve their writing skills. It allows them to speak up and to know that they have a voice that they can use. The Clubhouse model has taken a holistic approach, which we have adopted, which is why we have an on-site gym. Members are able to walk on the treadmill or use the recumbent elliptical bike. It allows them access to a gym so they don't have to pay a high monthly fee. One of the programs we love in this new house is our newscast that we create as part of our communication program. They decide what content that they want to put in the program. It's informative, it tells the members what is going on in the house, but we also have member segments, and it could be anything from stock tips to who's in the World Series. So we're really excited to have a yard. We've already purchased lawn equipment, so we've started mowing the lawn and trimming the bushes. You can do horticulture, you could do landscaping, and you know, being able to grow something is a huge sense of accomplishment, and all the vegetables that we grow, we will use in our lunch. It's important to have this house for the members because it sends the message that we all believe in them. Donors, board members, community members, we all believe in their worth and their value, and that they are not throwaway citizens. In the future of this house, I see filling it to the capacity with as many members as we possibly can and making as much impact on their lives in a positive way. And then when we get so big, we're going to build a bigger house, and then we're going to keep going until we have one in every county. That's what I see.
From that video, you can see why we're so excited about our new home and how important it is to all of us. For over a decade, Shore House has been on the front lines of mental health in New Jersey, and we've led the way by providing mental health recovery services that benefit not just our members, but our communities as well. Never have we lost sight of our mission to value those who struggle with serious mental illness, to help them thrive and get back to work and back to school, so they can live a fulfilling and productive life. And we're not done. In fact, we're only getting started. We currently have over 200 members and growing. Membership is free and voluntary. Our programs are research-based and proven to be one of the most cost-effective solutions to the mental health crisis. Yet Shore House receives no state or federal support, and we vow to change that. As you can see, we are doing so much with so little government support. And that's why we depend on donors like you. We couldn't do this without you. And this brings us to our next award. We're proud to present the Shore House Ambassador Award to an organization that has had a positive societal impact in supporting our mission. This foundation's generous support has allowed Shore House to expand into our new space and meet the growing demand for our programs so we can serve even more adults living with a mental illness. The Ambassador Award goes to the Jules L. Plangier Jr. Foundation. Accepting this award tonight is Foundation Trustee Jack Conover.
Hi, I'm Jack Conover, and I'm proud to accept the Shore House Ambassador Award on behalf of the Jules L. Plangier Jr. Family Foundation. Our foundation was created in 1997 by Jules and Jane Plangier to provide grants to local nonprofits to fulfill their crucial missions. Most likely, we all know, love, or work with someone with mental illness. Mental illness often has a devastating effect of separating people from others in society. Mental health recovery is dependent on a strong, sustainable support system. At the Jules L. Plongere Family Foundation, we see as our responsibility to ensure that our community members who struggle with mental illness know they are valued, have a place to go, and belong to a place to get their lives back on track. Shore House is that place. Our foundation has made a substantial investment in Shore House, but we and Shore House can't do it alone. We need you. Now that they have a home of their own, we have an opportunity to really grow this unique program at this crucial time as we find ourselves in the middle of a mental health crisis. Thank you, Shore House, for this award, and thank all of you for your support.
Thanks, Jack. Without the support of the Plongere Foundation, we would not be in this new house. Next up, Peter Hagberg, our board president, will moderate a much-needed panel discussion on mental health and the pandemic. We are certain you will find this topic interesting and come away with a new perspective. Take it away, Peter.
Thank you, Susan, and let's get started with today's important discussion on the effects of COVID-19 on mental health and what many are considering the new pandemic. Our esteemed panel of 3 mental health experts will offer their unique perspectives on the global mental health crisis, the new effects of COVID-19 on mental health, and practical advice on how best to help friends or loved ones suffering from severe mental illness. We're thrilled to be joined by Dr. Robin Mama, Dean and a full professor at the School of Social Work at Monmouth University. Dr. Mama also serves as the representative of the International Federation of Social Workers to the United Nations in New York City. In addition, she has the position of chair of the International Committee of the National Association of Social Workers. Please welcome Dean Mama. Next, we welcome Dr. Stephen Thekenot, a practicing psychiatrist and former chairman of psychiatry and outpatient medical director at Monmouth Medical Center. And we're also lucky to have Dr. Steve as a Shore House board member. Welcome, Dr. Steve. And last, but certainly not least, calling in from the beautiful island of Kauai on Hawaii is Jack Yatsko. Jack is the Chief Operating Officer of Clubhouse International, which is the coordinating center for over 310 clubhouses in 32 countries around the world. Jack has over 35 years of experience in the mental health field, and we're thrilled to bring his unique experience to our discussion. Welcome to all of our guests, and let's get started. Dr. Mama, I'd like to begin our discussion by asking you to provide us with an overview of the global mental health crisis as a way to help frame the more specific conversation about the new impact of COVID-19 on mental health.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for the invitation to be part of this panel. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you as we discuss these important issues. I will try to give you a picture of what's happening globally around mental health, as well as a national picture, and then say a few words about COVID-19's impact on mental health. There's a lot that we could discuss and a number of things that we could talk about and get into this more, but I'll try to be as succinct as possible. So in terms of global mental health statistics, the World Health Organization estimates that there are 1 in 4 people in the world who will be affected by a mental or neurological disorder at some point in their lifetime. Currently, there are 450 million people who are affected, which places mental disorders along the leading causes of ill health and disability worldwide. 2/3 of those people will never get help, and that's because of stigma, discrimination, and neglect around preventative care. When we look at the types of disorders that are most prevalent, and I would say these hold true for the national picture as well as the international, there are 4 of them. Depression is the first. And it's estimated that about 264 million people are affected by depression. And of course, it affects more women than men. Bipolar disorder affects about 45 million people worldwide. Schizophrenia affects about 20 million people worldwide. And then finally, there's dementia, which affects approximately 50 million people worldwide. So when we look at national statistics, there are some similarities with the global. So there are 40% of countries around the world who have absolutely no mental health policy, and 30% have no mental health programs in their countries. There are 33% of the countries worldwide who allocate less than 1% of their total health budgets for mental health, with another 33% spending only about 1% of their budgets for mental health. 25% of countries don't have the 3 most commonly prescribed drugs used to treat schizophrenia, depression, or epilepsy. And since Dr. Steve is with us on this panel, he might find this statistic interesting. There's only 1 psychiatrist per 100,000 people in more than 50% of the countries worldwide. So that's an interesting and staggering statistic. If we look at what has been happening with mental health in terms of COVID-19, the World Health Organization actually conducted a survey from June through August of this year in 130 countries across their 6 regions. And here's what they found. 60% of countries that answered the survey reported disruptions to mental health services for vulnerable people, including children, older adults, and women who require antenatal or postnatal care. 67% reported disruptions to counseling and psychotherapy, and 35% reported disruptions to emergency interventions, including those for severe substance abuse withdrawal. Many countries tried to bridge the gap during the pandemic with teletherapy or telehealth, but there's a disparity as well between high-income countries and low-income countries and who was able to do that. 80% of high-income countries were able to bridge that gap a bit with teletherapy, but it occurred for less than 50% of the low-income countries. So this is just a little bit of the picture of what's going on, and I hope this is helpful in terms of our discussion as we go forward.
Thank you, Dr. Mama. Dr. Steve, as a practicing psychiatrist, how has COVID-19 impacted your practice and your patients?
Thank you, Peter, and thank you, Dr. Mama and Jack, for being part of this panel. There was a recent article in JAMA that came out about a week ago that they did a survey on people just in the general population to try to find out how they have been impacted by COVID-19, and they have found out about 40% of individuals who don't have a pre-existing psychiatric or mental health issue. 40% have issues around depression, around substance abuse, around anxiety, around trauma. And this is about 3 to 4 times more than it was in 2019. So COVID-19 has significantly impacted how people have responded to this pandemic. And when I look at my private practice, I see, I would say about 98, 99%, practically every single person since March, every single time I speak to them, the issue around the pandemic comes up, and it's about how do I deal with the shopping? How do I deal with school? How do I deal with teaching my kids? When will my employer ask me to come back to work? And predominantly, the number one piece I see is anxiety. So you have this fear about what's going to happen to me when I go out there, and I'm going to be subjected to the virus. So it creates a lot of uncertainties. So that's where the trauma piece comes into play. And then in addition to that, there is this general fear because they have found another study where people with psychiatric illnesses, if they get COVID-19, there's double the risk that they're going to die from this disease. So it's a very significant problem for a lot of individuals. So, I've looked at what, people, the current estimation is 2 out of 5 people in the United States, they know somebody who has either died from COVID-19 or were hospitalized from COVID-19. They personally know them. So that also creates another piece of anxiety. If you have witnessed a family member or a friend who has been very sick, or a family or friend who died from COVID-19, there are psychological ramifications of that trauma, of how to deal with that. So one of the problems that I see is we should never have called it social isolation. I mean, you should have called it physical distancing with social connectedness. Our goal, especially with COVID-19 and people isolating at home, the people suffering the most are those with psychiatric issues, because they've already been struggling with a lot of isolation, and it's gotten so much worse because they cannot go out, they cannot do things with other people. Individuals who don't have a psychiatric problem have struggled with this, and people with mental illness struggle even more with the social isolation.
Thank you, Dr. Steve. Dr. Mama, a question back to you. In the news, we hear a lot of negative information about college-age students spreading the virus, but we hear very little about the mental health state through the pandemic. Can you comment a bit on what students are going through right now?
Sure. Thank you, Peter. I think all students want to have some type of normal life at the moment. And I think that's where some of the news has come out about them being at risk or, participating in activities that put them at risk and then put others at risk. But at the same time, there's a lot of loneliness with students. They feel isolated, they feel lonely, they feel sad. They're just as unsure about their future as we are as adults and what's going to happen. And even as they come back to college, they are desperately wanting a college experience. They have an idea in their head about what that should be like, and they want it. And it's very hard to then have that be restricted.
For the parents out there with college-age students, is there anything that you can advise us as a way to help them cope?
I think communication is the biggest piece. And everyone has to really talk about their feelings around this. Normalizing that we all feel a little bit stressed, that we all feel a little isolated, that we all are unsure about what's going to happen, but that we have to be as flexible as possible. And I think trying to continually hope and keep a good outcome, a good outlook, but also to be realistic and to talk through everything that's happening, I think is important.
Thank you. That's helpful advice. Dr. Steve, navigating the mental health crisis is very daunting. If a loved one or someone you know is experiencing a mental health crisis, what advice can you give to our viewers on how to get help and get started?
Yeah, that's always a very difficult situation for a lot of people because they really do not know what to do. And people are not trained to really assess or make a determination of how seriously sick somebody might be. So on our Shore House website, we have a resource page where we have kind of listed various things that individuals can do if they're having an issue or a problem with a friend or family member. And the number one safety issue, a psychiatric emergency safety issue, is always things like, is somebody talking about suicide, or they're talking wanting to hurt somebody else. And that's, for psychiatry, it's always a number one emergency situation. So there's a phone number for the crisis center at Monmouth Medical Center. If you call them, they're available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Let them know what the problem is, and they'll walk you through what are the steps that need to be done in regards to trying to give this person immediate help, because this is not something you can wait on. You've got to immediately address it. And then there are some other resources that's on that page. One very common resource, if you know somebody is really struggling with a lot of anxiety, or they've lost a loved one because of COVID-19, so there's a lot of sadness and prolonged bereavement over somebody passing, or just that somebody's getting very depressed. There's a national site called Psychology Today. It's on our website. If you go to that link, you can plug in the zip code that you're in. You can also put in the distance you want to be looking. You can put in your insurance information, and then you can choose whether you want a therapist or a psychiatrist. One of the things that people sometimes have problems with, they don't know what the difference is between a therapist, psychologist, and a psychiatrist. So fundamentally, a psychiatrist goes to medical school, gets residency trained for 4 years, maybe a fellowship, and a psychiatrist prescribes medications, but also a psychiatrist does psychotherapy. Or everybody else, social workers and psychologists, provide psychotherapy, psychosocial interventions, psychoeducation, but they don't prescribe medications. There's another group called the nurse practitioners. they are nurses who have got special training, and they can provide medications and psychotherapy as well. So if you go to Psychology Today, that's one way to do that. And there are links to various clinics. If somebody doesn't want to use a private practice doctor or therapist, they can go to our link. Monmouth Medical Center has a clinic, Jersey Shore, there's CPC, behavioral health, there's High Focus. So there are those issues. And then for substance abuse, if somebody is excessively drinking alcohol or using drugs, which is one of the problems during this pandemic, there's been an increase in substance abuse. There are also links about who you can call to see if that individual might be able to go there and get help. And with substance abuse, as is true with any other condition, the person obviously has to be willing to go, but once they are willing, then that's a resource where it might be best to make inquiries on. And finally, there's always this one other piece beyond meditation, yoga, exercising, trying to eat healthy, trying to make a connection. The one piece that a lot of people don't know about is a Clubhouse model for mental health. And it's a huge successful means to help people who are struggling with mental illness. I was part of the original Clubhouse, Fountain House in New York City, so I'm very familiar with it. And then we have our only Clubhouse in New Jersey that has been certified. And basically, it's a different format of being able to provide care for somebody who's suffering from a psychiatric issue, but it's not a treatment modality. It's more of a rehabilitation to get somebody back into the community, to reduce the social isolation, to reduce the stigma, and to help them get back into a work environment and some form of education.
Thank you, Dr. Steve. Jack, can you start with a description of what a clubhouse is and why clubhouses have proven to be so effective in promoting mental wellness?
Sure, thank you. It's an honor to be here with everybody today. And I can't help but reflect back on the family members who really were the driving force behind Shore House, which is really a shining jewel of psychiatric rehabilitation in Long Branch and really in New Jersey, because Shore House is the only accredited clubhouse in the entire state. But it was the passion of those family members that got the seeds planted. Clubhouses are really three things. They're holistic, they're cost-effective, and they change lives. They're holistic in the sense that Dr. Steve alluded to, and that they provide an array. A clubhouse is an opportunity center. And so it's a place where people come to during the day. It's not a residential program, but a program that people come to during the day to get help for whatever their recovery goals are. So we help people with reintegrating back into society through helping them get jobs, returning to school, gaining skills to live independently. And as Dr. Steve and Dr. Mama mentioned, the social isolation issue is such a profound factor for people with persistent mental illness. And clubhouses reduce that. You make friends at a clubhouse. Clubhouses are often second families for many of our members. And we use the term member more than client or patient because you're a member of a community and you're part of being responsible for carrying out the responsibilities of the clubhouse. So it's really holistic in that sense in meeting all the social determinants of and quality of life for people. It's cost effective in the sense that clubhouses are purposely staffed low because we draw on the strengths, talents, and abilities of our members to carry out the functions in a work order day structure. So there's a lot of work to do in the clubhouse, ranging from making lunch to answering phones to doing reach out. You may have a horticulture area. The clubhouse has a lot of different opportunities for members to volunteer to get involved with whatever they'd like to. We've also had studies done that show the recidivism in hospitalizations and the usage of high-cost services such as emergency rooms, involvement in the forensic system. And so clubhouses have been evidence-based practices that are cost-effective for every community that has one. When I mention change lives, I reflect upon the fact that I have visited over 150 clubhouses in the 32 countries that we have them in. And inevitably, when I talk to members, they say to me, this clubhouse not only changed my life, it saved my life. And those words are very profound to us who work in the clubhouse model. And we take this very seriously. So I think the reason why it works is because it meets all facets of not just somebody with a mental illness, but just as human beings having purpose in our lives, meaning and constructive things to do during the day and having opportunity to draw upon our strengths, talents, and abilities in a safe, supportive environment that a clubhouse is.
Thank you, Jack. Can you share with us what's happened with clubhouses around the world during the pandemic and where you see clubhouses going in the future as a result?
Sure. Really, clubhouses did a marvelous job of pivoting from building-based services to the hybrid and virtual world. Many of our members have limited phone plans, don't have tablets, so a lot of clubhouses quickly got supports to get those kinds of things in members' hands so they could do Zoom calls, they could meet and have a schedule similar to what they use in their regular work order day to have structure in their day so people could still work on a newsletter from home, still make calls to people. A lot of clubhouses did an exorbitant amount of meal deliveries, community supports. I remember Journey House in Utah was delivering like 70 meals a day to members and dividing up their catchment area to do that. So meeting the basic needs of members became prominent during the COVID. And as our other panelists referred to, we were very concerned about that social isolation because it's such a precursor that leads to symptom exacerbation. And so all the clubhouses in all 6 continents quickly got well-versed in using the virtual world to communicate with people, to have constructive schedules during the day, to carry out the work of the clubhouse. I think the future is going to be more of a hybrid thing. So if you have a member, for example, that takes 3 buses to get to Shore House and it takes over 2 hours to get there and they try to get there 4 or 5 days a week, the pandemic has kind of created an unexpected opportunity of people being from home, and maybe they'll call in from home and come and use this type of avenue to still be connected to the clubhouse and participate in the work of the clubhouse and maybe come in physically 2 or 3 days a week. So we see the model expanding because of this technology and using sort of a hybrid opportunity to expand the services that clubhouses provide. So even though the pandemic has been so awful in so many ways, as our other panelists have alluded to, clubhouses have done a really nice pivot. And we've met with over 300 clubhouses via this mechanism and have learned from them, and will continue to share tips and strategies through our website on how clubhouses can make this transition successfully.
I agree with that, Jack, and that pivot we see at Shore House, and it's really been fantastic. We allude to Shore House as the first and only clubhouse in the state of New Jersey. That's both a major problem, but a huge opportunity for our state. What can we do? And I'm going to open this up to everyone here. What can we do to make a change in our own state of New Jersey, in our own communities and in our own schools to promote mental wellness?
I think it's important to document outcomes. At your clubhouse, you are helping members reintegrate back into society. And how you're doing that, you're helping them get jobs. And so members are earning wages. They're becoming tax-paying citizens in your community. Documenting that is an important way to show the effectiveness. How many people are moving from very expensive board and care homes into their own apartments? So I think you have to be able to make the case for clubhouses to expand in New Jersey through data collection and outcomes. I also think that partnering with other NAMI groups and other people who support this kind of psychiatric rehabilitation is important. What I mean by that is politicians, social workers, folk rehab offices, other psychiatrists, universities and colleges, disability counselors at universities. You need to be kind of form a speakers bureau and get out into the community and make people aware. The clubhouse is the best kept secret in mental health. But if you're out speaking to Rotary clubs, Lions clubs, universities, and broadening your reach beyond just the psychiatric community, but also in the fabric of the community and become better well known, I think there'll be better buy-in and a greater degree of expansion for clubhouses in New Jersey.
Thank you. Good advice. Dr. Mama, in our prior discussion, you discussed what Monmouth University has done with their telehealth line. If you can elaborate on that a little bit, please.
Sure. We were faced in May with having part-time MSW students who needed to go out into field. And, everyone was struggling in terms of academics. We were all thinking about how we were going to have students complete their field internships in a remote way. We have forever wanted to have a community clinic that the School of Social Work would run, but we've not been able to do it until now. And so we started the Monmouth University Community Care Telehealth Clinic. It's up and running in June. And we have right now, between our summer students and then our fall MSW students, 10 second-year clinical MSW students providing free counseling through telehealth to anyone in the state. It's been a great start to this clinic. We have faculty, our own clinical faculty, who are supervising the students, and they're doing some really good work for people in the community who need a free counseling service.
Thank you. That's a fantastic idea and something that maybe Shore House can look to partner with you on in the future. Another question. We've mentioned the stigma associated with mental illness, yet the numbers are staggering. We know the crisis continues to grow. Why does the stigma exist in the first place related to mental illness? And do you see that changing with more and more conversation with celebrities and influential people starting to get involved in the mental health conversation?
So Peter, I just, and maybe Robin might want to say something to that as well, but from my own personal experience, the stigma, it's amazing that the stigma is prevalent even in the medical community. So there is a lot of misunderstanding with other physicians who are not psychiatrists. And I think that one of the issues with that and with the general community is this fear of the unknown. People don't seem to really get a good sense of what does it really mean to be depressed? What does it mean to have schizophrenia? What does it mean to have bipolar disorder? I can understand cancer and I can understand high blood pressure, but psychiatric diagnoses are unfortunately coupled, in a wrong way with violence, death, some kind of mayhem. And it's not necessarily true. It's actually a tiny percentage of people who actually do anything that's violent, but there's this association. So I think one is the fear, and the other piece is really not understanding what's actually going on with, or what that means to have schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. So I think we have a responsibility, and I think the American Psychiatric Association and all their district branches, American Psychological Association, the National Association of Social Work, are all trying to make efforts to do a part of education. So I think, like Jack said, I think we need to go out there and be present and have a speakers bureau and get the data and talk to individuals out in the community so they can also understand basically what is actually going on with individuals who are not feeling well, and then the resources that can be provided to them when they're not feeling good. So I think that's a piece that we have to be careful about in being able to educate. And then the one piece that I want to add to what Jack talked about is in New Jersey, one of the biggest problems is that they're very much focused as legislators that services for mental illness or psychiatric care has to be somewhat medical driven. And unless it's medical driven, they won't reimburse. You cannot bill Medicaid, you cannot bill Medicare. It creates a whole system of problems. And so clubhouses are not medically driven. Clubhouses are driven by members, basically. So members come in, they decide where they want to be. They work with a staff member in a work order day to do different functions to help the clubhouse do its work. And it's not medically based. In fact, they leave their diagnosis outside the door once they enter into a clubhouse. And because of that, it creates this problem because 90% of Shore House is all private funding. We get about 10% coming from the county. So we as board members and as a community have to work really, really hard to get the resources from private foundations and private people to be able to have our Shore House, which is the only accredited one in New Jersey. So we'd have to really do a lot of work to try to get the legislators to kind of understand what we do. And we have tried to partner with other organizations, but they have also had problems because of this dilemma in New Jersey where they expect everything to be medically driven.
I think also, Peter, along the lines of stigma, is that it sells. You see in the movies, you see on TV, Dr. Steve mentioned the myth of violence. People with mental illness are more likely to be victims of crime than perpetrators of it. But it sells. So the more that celebrities, athletes, politicians, well-known people come out and talk about their own experiences with their mental illnesses will help reduce it. I think back to the HIV/AIDS, when that first came out, people were scared and very leery of anybody who had that. And that's really waned away now. And I would hope to see that same thing happen with people with mental illness, that people with mental illness can be productive citizens in the community, and they're human beings and have the same needs and desires as anybody else does. And so being in this field for over 35 years, my kids grew up around the clubhouse that I worked in. We know factually that this model works, and people don't need to fear folks with mental illness. Just along the lines of the Medicaid thing, we have over 150 clubhouses in the United States who receive Medicaid funding. And we've done work with the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services and have an activity table that the federal Center for CMS has approved for the types of activities that clubhouses do. So I agree with Dr. Steve that we need to educate the state Medicaid offices and potential government funders that this is a piece that is effective and they should be a part of in their communities. And so we look forward to partnering more with Shore House in that capacity.
Thank you. I also think that if you think about the statistics globally and this idea that 1 in 4 adults at some point in their life will experience a mental illness or a neurological disorder, it means that we really have to think about health in both physical health as well as mental health. And I think in the past, we've put mental health to the side. We think of physical health when we think of health. So when we think of our own health, we have to think that we have physical health and we have mental health. And when we incorporate all of that in, I think that will also help to reduce the stigma because it's just part of overall health.
A big thank you to our panelists on what we hope you agree was a very enlightening discussion on what we realize is a very hard-hitting topic. COVID-19 and the effects on mental illness will continue to be an important conversation piece during these dynamic and uncertain times. This should put the pressure on all of us to address the mental health crisis with more urgency, with more attention, and with more resources than ever before. I'm confident that clubhouses, and more specifically, Shore House in New Jersey, as the first and only accredited clubhouse, will be the go-to resource to help our friends, our colleagues, and our loved ones deal with their mental illness and return to a life of happiness and productivity. As we've heard, the clubhouse model is proven to be extremely effective throughout the world in treating mental illness. In fact, the 310 plus clubhouses around the world are funded primarily with government support based on the success of their program. Here in New Jersey, we have a different story. As we've heard, we receive less than 10% of our funding from the state. In fact, 10% of that comes from the county of Monmouth. That means over 90% of our funding comes from donors just like you and me. We need to change that narrative, and I'm asking for you and me to be part of that solution in bringing the clubhouse movement to New Jersey beyond Shore House. Thank you for your support and for listening into our panel. And Susan, on to you.
Thank you, Peter, and our esteemed panel for that very interesting conversation. We are sure you came away with a new perspective. Next up, I would like to present the Shore House Hero Award. This award is given in recognition of an organization who demonstrates outstanding achievements and noble acts. This year's recipient is the Providing Hope Foundation. Shore House is grateful to the foundation for their generous support, and in particular, the support that will allow us to build our garden. The vegetables grown in this garden will nourish our members. We are very certain Rosemary would approve. I am proud to present the Shore House Hero Award to Dr. Marshall Sherman, President of the Foundation.
Thank you, Shore House, for this award. I accept it on behalf of myself and my daughters, Natalie and Leslie. We are honored to be part of your new home expansion and your growing community of supporters. And now it's my turn to present an award. The Rosemary Sherman Restoring Dreams Award, presented annually, celebrates the achievements of a member of Shore House for their courage and capacity to overcome adversity. This award honors the recipient for their inspirational story of strength through the journey of mental illness. This award is named after my late wife, Rosemary, who dedicated her life's work to supporting and assisting individuals facing adversity. As director of a local substance abuse facility for over 25 years, Rosemary supported thousands of individuals as they dealt with addiction and mental health issues and courageously went on to live rewarding and meaningful lives. In 2011, Rosemary founded the Providing Hope Foundation, through which she developed programs benefiting, among many others, children with special needs, at-risk youth, and individuals facing poverty. One of Rosemary's favorite programs gathered students from all abilities to plant organic gardens at 7 Long Branch schools. These students then donated vegetables grown in these gardens to local food banks. In Rosemary's lifetime, she helped thousands of people overcome adversity, and she felt honored to be a part of their lives. The members have gathered together in the Shore House dining room, where each one of these members has already voted on the person who they feel should receive this award. With Rosemary's legacy in mind, I am happy to present the Restoring Dreams Award to someone whose strength best exemplifies the clubhouse spirit by countering stigma and discrimination associating with mental illness. And the award goes to Albert Rocky.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Marshall, and thank you to everyone for voting for me to receive the Rosemary Sherman Restoring Dreams Award on behalf of Shore House and its members. This will encourage me to continue my advocacy. Thank you all.
Congratulations, Albert, on your award. I'm glad I can be a part of it. And congratulations, Shore House, on your new home. And we wish you the best of luck on all your future endeavors.
My depression was very deep. It was like deep, dark waters. You couldn't even see fish under there, you know what I'm saying? You didn't see any other life form but darkness. It was just a constant swim, and I just never knew if I was gonna get out of it or not. In the mental health system, you're always on a conveyor belt because there's so many people that need help. We get caught up so often in all these programs, and all they want you to do is just get a job and be normal. When I was hospitalized in 2013, it was one of my many hospitalizations. They said, you know, you're gonna want a program outside of here. And every single one that I looked through, it seemed so confining, you know, and what the protocol was. Take this medication and have to be there by that time. I didn't get any soul. But when I came across Shore House, it spoke to me like, oh, I can be myself here. You know, there was something just a little more freeing about it that I felt, okay, I should just go there. The very first thing that I noticed, there was a long orange extension cord going from the fan and going upstairs. And so I looked at it as this is the beginning. There's something that's being built here, and I want to be part of the history. And if I'm going to be part of the history and be myself at the same time, I thought it was going to be a fun build. They didn't ask intrusive questions, you know, they weren't like, how much medication do you take? And I'm like, they're like, well, welcome. That's what I wanted to hear, welcome, because there's a difference between being invited in someone's house and welcome in someone's home, and that's what I felt. The director, Susan, she knew I was into drawing, I was into writing, and so she knew that was gonna plug me right in. I was like, okay, I got you, I see you. I came out with this poem that was good. It was on the dark side. It was like actually being able to go into that moment of depression and being able to illustrate it. And when it comes to creative expression, that's how you get to know yourself. So having that outlet and having the patience is what helped me to launch off on my own, you know, when I didn't think I could. I've hid who I was for a very long time, and that was part of my illness, you know, just hiding. That's the biggest battle, being yourself and accepting that. So here you can be accepted, be heard, and know yourself more. It was actually National Coming Out Day. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna stand up in front of everybody and just let them know, so I'm not hiding in front of nobody no more. If I can be this open here, I might as well go out all the way. I stood up in front of everybody and I was like, hey, I'm transgendered. I just wanted to let you guys know and make myself a little bit more comfortable. And there was not one twitchy eyebrow, there wasn't one nose bucking, it was just, well, thank you, I appreciate it, we love you either way. And I'm like, yeah. If you hear that at least once in your journey, there's a victory somewhere. Shore House made me comfortable in that sense. Before, I really couldn't see my future because I was still only seeing the dark waters. But now I can see myself surfing. I can see myself navigating those waters. I can see myself being a lifeguard, helping people who don't even know how to swim just yet. I see myself mastering the waters I was once drowning in. That's what I see.
Wow. Thank you, Christian, for sharing your story with us. These are people who were once considered throwaway citizens by many, as they bounce around from psych ward to psych ward, from program to program. Shore House is first and foremost a community of people who are working together towards a common goal, to provide opportunities for members to achieve optimal mental and physical well-being and return to a life of meaning and self-worth. It's highly likely that each one of you here tonight knows someone you love, a friend or a colleague who is struggling. And it was inevitable that with the global pandemic, cases of depression, anxiety, drug and alcohol abuse would spike, and they have. What is desperately needed is what Shore House offers: research-based, proven and effective methods to manage mental health. At Shore House, we bring community to people with mental illness, and with your gift, you do too. I'm inspired each and every day as members demonstrate courage by coming to Shore House, not only for themselves, but for each other. And they do this in spite of the stigma and the constant daily struggle. They won't give up, neither will we. We need your support. Please give the gift of mental wellness. Head over to our website now, on your phone, on your tablet, and visit shorehousenj.org. There you can make a donation and view our wish list. Please share this web address with your friends and with your family. We need your help to spread the word. Congratulations again to the Freed Foundation, the Jules L. Plangier Jr. Family Foundation, the Providing Hope Foundation, and member Albert Rocky. And thank you to our sponsors who made this event possible. You are all truly making the world a better place, and we are proud to partner with you. Remember, too, that the doors at Shore House are always open, so please come visit us. Thank you from me, from Susan, and from our board of trustees.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Hey, I'm Danny Rocker, and this is my show now. I represent all the members of Shore House, and we'd like to give love kisses and a thank you to all our supporters. Goodbye. Goodbye, everybody. Bye.